Yeah, exactly. And so we're recognizing that people want to be connected at these events, and they want to find out who they know and who they should know. So we do a few things to make sure that everybody is included, including the newcomers. It's funny, when I talk to event planners, I'll often hear them say, we don't need this because everybody at my event already knows each other. And of course, if you're in charge, you know everybody.
Right, I was going to say that never happens, but okay.
But I hear it, right? That's their mindset. I know everybody, so I assume that everybody else knows everybody. And of course, it's the newcomers who lose out on this. So we tie into registration systems to make sure that if you're registered for the event, you can have a profile in the community by default. So we make it very simple. And we also tie into Facebook,
Oh, I'm going
to
to go back to that a little bit, because one of the things that I loved when Pathable worked with us on Event Camp Vancouver was that I actually didn't have to do anything other than say we were working with eTouches for registration. And all of that was taken care of. And that was, to me, the most beautiful thing, because if I would have had to actually figure out technologically what that meant, and I think most meeting planners feel that way. It's like we don't want to have a community because it sounds like it's one more thing we have to do, without actually understanding just how easy you've made the process by using the technology that already exists, which I think is really interesting. Yeah. But you can go back to what you were saying. But
no, well, I think that's worth a point, because what has been found online is that as people get access to more information more quickly, they become really lazy and intolerant and impatient. And so I know Google did some famous studies where they found that if a page took 3.5 seconds to load instead of 2 seconds to load, they were losing 30% of their visitors who they weren't willing to wait that second and a half extra. And so for us, what that means is if we're able to tie into the registration system, so right when you register for the event, you're in the community and you're engaging with it, we're accessing people when we still have their attention.
Yes.
And that's a big difference from sending them an email, telling them, when you get a chance, go sign up for the Facebook page.
Well, and that is the challenge. Somebody made the comment that because PCMA Meeting Leaders has a great app that they're running, but there's no photos. And so somebody said yesterday, wouldn't it have been great if you could have just linked with a LinkedIn picture or a Gravatar picture or something on that back end that would have just made it so simple to be able to visually recognize the people that, I got lucky this morning. I happened to be sitting across the table from somebody that I've never met who I'm co-presenting with tomorrow. Wouldn't it have been nice to have known what she looked like ahead of time with actually no effort on my part? And I think that's what makes Pathable so interesting, is that the amount of effort versus the benefit is really high. Yeah. So now how do we get that message out there?
Right. Well, it's interesting. Just a quick point on the photos. It is so critical. Humans for millions of years have evolved to place a lot of emotional value on photos. In terms of the evolution of social networking, there were social networks for decades. I mean, back in the 1980s, I ran an online bulletin board out of my house on two 2600 baud modems, right? I mean, this technology has been around for a while. Friendster was the first big breakout social network. And the thing that it did that no social network had done before was include photos. Yeah. So, I mean, the human mind is tuned to react.
We're not tuned to look for people's feed or, look for a notebook. We want to see what the faces of the people for sure.
It gives meaning and it gives emotional connection to the network. So we make sure that we make it very easy for people after they've registered. They're right in the network. They're uploading their photos. We place those strategically throughout the network because it creates that emotional engagement and attachment. And then we tie in to the other social networks. So Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, you can go onto a Pathable community and say, who do I know that's attending? We'll go out to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We'll compare it to who you know, and we'll tell you, here are the people you know that will be there. And that, for me, is so fantastic. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in an event, and I haven't realized till I was on the airport, in the cab back to the airport, that there was someone that I knew who I wanted to connect with.
Yes, that is exceptionally true, and especially the bigger the meeting grows, more that is true. So 100 people in a room, you can probably find who you're looking for, but I think that absolutely you start to get to 500 or 1,000 people, and you're probably exactly the same. I have 5 people that we've tweeted and we know we're here, but it's going to be a little while till we see each other, but at least we know we're here. So we've already made that first start, and now it is just about the sort of those next steps. And I also think one of the other great things about what you're doing is making it scalable, so small versus big.
Right.
So it's great.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things that we're changing right now. Is up to this point, we've really been focused on the 800 person meeting, the 2,000 person meeting, the 5,000 person meeting.
Jordan, I think it's great, the whole, and how you are changing so that where you were focused on larger meetings, and now you're going to offer your community capabilities to smaller meetings on a totally different basis than when you get into the larger meetings. I think that's going to be a fantastic opportunity for people. I know it's something Mike's going to follow up with you on, which will be great. We are now headed to the PCMA Convening Leaders Lunch, where we're going to go find some of those people that we've talked about. So thank you very much, Jordan. Really appreciate it. Jordan Schwartz, Pathable, Tahira Endine, roving reporter, signing off. Tahira Endine, roving reporter, live from PCMA Convening Leaders. Mike McKellen, you said you want great content and you want things like technology and meetings and event design. And guess who I found? Corbin Ball. He needs no introduction. And what we're going to talk about today is the impact that mobile is going to have on our meetings and events coming up. Corbin, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here today. And so, I've been an analyst for the last 15 years looking at meetings technology for full time, and I've never seen a more exciting time than right now in terms of what's developing. I think things are going to change in events more in the next 5 years than they have in the last 20 years due to the impact primarily of mobile technology. It's really changing events, but it's just changing society in general. So.
I would absolutely, because you're right when you say from 20 years ago, I remember those carousel slides, turn them upside down and backwards, and that wasn't really that long ago.
No, it
and,
wasn't. Yeah.
And fax machines and registering people by hand, basically.
So last century, doesn't it?
So it seems like so last century. And I think that it is, especially, we see so much in mobile, and everybody's walking around here with their tablets and their smartphones, and I would say just starting to tap into some of the potential. So where do you see it going?
Oh, I think so. I think we're just starting to do that. We're at the point now that if you don't have an app for your event, people are asking why you're behind the time. It's becoming expected. Yeah. But the next step is the really exciting step, is that you take it from just a mere conversion of a paper program into a digital form of the same thing, into a very interactive tool that can manage it. You can use it for lead exchange, you can use it for wayfinding, for audience polling, for survey capabilities, to be able to pick up conference literature, course notes. The list goes on and on and on. It can be a much richer experience with the interactive videos and full feeds into the social media links, and it's completely a different animal than what we used to have. And not only we're not cutting down trees to make it, and it goes out of print the instant it's been printed.
And you have to store it. Like, where do you keep all of that paper?
Yeah, and then what about the changes that happen?
Yeah.
There are always changes, and so those are the things. So the ability just for an app that does all these things, I think has great potential.
And I would say that even just talking to some of our app providers that are on site here in the last couple of days, that technology is there. The ability to do what you're talking about is there, but we just haven't actually. The organizations aren't tying it all together. They're really seeing an app still as a separate entity we have a program, we have our website, we have our content on our website, and then we have this app that's, like you said, kind of it's standalone, and it really is just an electronic brochure.
And that's right. And it's really going to be, and first of all, I think associations that are going to be doing this well, they're going to stand, and other corporations establish a 24/7, 365 presence with it. It's not just about the event. You're running multiple events. It's not just about the contacts at that event. It's about all the members. It's about distributing this content to all your members in a way that's really exciting and engaging.
And maybe starting some dialogue between the members and really building the community that is backed behind that, so that people can, you've got that content there, now let's talk about it and start to get some innovations
and market
from
next
it.
year's meeting as well.
And market next year's meeting.
What they found is that there were concerns about virtual meetings and hybrid meetings cannibalizing existing meetings. Well, the statistics indicate that that's not. They're doing research on it. It's not. In fact, in more cases than not, it's building attendance because people see how great it is and they want to come next year.
And I had that conversation this morning in a session where two people with associations who still felt that there would be cannibalization, and we're quite scared of it still. And so we talked around those things, and they're still quite a ways away from having a mobile app. So they're sharing their content with their association members, but they're doing that through their website, whether it's some audio, some video. But for them to get to even that hybrid stage, they were just like, oh, that's a bit scary. And so I said, look at some of the research that PCMA has been doing in particular, because they too were scared of it 2 years ago. Like, we need to try it, but what if it doesn't work? And you're right. I'm a perfect example. I attended virtually twice, and now here I am wishing this app was just a little bit more robust.
Right.
So, but a year ago, I wouldn't have even expected an app.
Well, and the sky's the limit there. I'm really excited. I did a session this morning, and I asked, we were talking about office technology, and asked how many people are carrying around a smartphone. Virtually everybody in the room, business travelers and people going to meetings. And I asked how many people are carrying around a tablet computer of some sort. About half the audience.
Yeah.
And that number is just exploding, and that opens up a whole new area that you can really do document management when you're on the fly. I used to call meetings the black hole of event data management because you had computers before and after, but you're flying blind during the event.
Yeah.
Now you have access to all this information and all the people's activity. Every click on a mobile app is trackable, for example, and you do all these different things that you can really have a precise measure of what's working and what's not and what you want to do to improve it.
And I think that's the other sort of interesting side of it is, so now as a planner, we have these apps and we're completely underutilizing that back-end data. So I think that there might also become sort of an emerging market for the data analysis and people who are really specializing in tracking that data and being able to give a contextual report back to an association about here's what you can do now. Because I think that is kind of the next step.
Oh, I completely agree. That's why these times are so exciting because it's all so new. The iPhone's only 5 years old. The iPad is only 2.5 years old.
Yeah. And we're on version 17 of that now?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And people are walking around and saying, how did we ever get along without this stuff? It's like we've ever always had it. But what the big step that's happening now is we're just trying to figure out all this back end stuff. We're trying to make the shift over from just thinking paper into really full content multimedia. So there's just a lot of learning we have to do, both in just app development, but the whole meeting design is going to be changed by this as well. So it's really exciting times.
For me, that's what really excites me, because it's what a concept that we actually are creating meetings for the people to leave the meetings actually feeling connected and feeling innovative and creative, and as if they've sparked it. They just haven't heard ideas, but they've had the opportunity to make them relevant and to spark ideas, and now to connect instantly to people that if you didn't get their business card, who cares? I've got their information and I know about them. So I think it's really fascinating. So I thank you so much for sharing your insights. I don't know if you have any sort of final words you'd like to share about the future of where you see it going.
Well, I'll end with one of my favorite quotes, because what we're dealing with is change. And I actually have my favorite quote is from Charles Darwin on this. It's the strongest of the species. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that's most adaptable to change. And I think that's what we need to do now, is we need to embrace that mode of change. It's going to be head swimmingly, but the good news is it's getting easier and cheaper to do all the time. And I'd add on to Charles Darwin's quote with humility. It's digital Darwinism is alive and well. If you don't adapt to technology change, you'll lose business to those that do. So it's we lose all of us to be excited about this and to think about how we can use these new technologies to improve events.
I love that, digital Darwinism. Thank you so much, Corbin Ball. I really appreciate it. This is Tahira Endine, Roving Reporter, signing off for Meeting Podcast. Tahira Endine, Roving Reporter for Meeting Podcast. I'm here with Michelle Bruno. She's kind of famous. I'm not sure she needs much more introduction than that. So Michelle did a fantastic session here at PCMA Convening Leaders on digital disruption. But we're going to talk today about disruption of all kinds and how that's impacting our meetings industry. And so Should we start with digital disruption and talk a little bit about how we see that impacting the meetings community?
Yeah, so that's a good starting point, is the